Now, you may remember when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, he caused himself and his party quite a headache by his decision to scrap the 10p tax rate. So could David Cameron and George Osborne face their own 10p tax moment over plans to take away child benefit from higher rate taxpayers? Some on the Tory backbenches think so. Here's Giles Dilnot.
And there's shoes for Betty and a suit for George.
I'm not made of money. It's impossible to go on like this.
Family allowance, which became child benefit in 1977, was a post-war welfare benefit paid to all regardless of wealth.
But wait a minute. I've just read a piece about family allowances. We can get 10 shillings a week for our three.
Oh, you'll never get that.
Oh, yes, you will.
And just imagine what they'd have made of today's figures of £20.30 a week for the eldest and £13.40 for each additional child. That's what the Bennett family from Guildford, Dad Daniel and Mum Andrea, get for their children, Ollie, Daisy and Lucy. £188 every 4 weeks, a total of £2,444 a year. But supporting nearly 8 million of the nation's children, however wealthy their parents, costs the state around £12 billion a year, a fact that gave a cash-strapped new Chancellor a £2.4 billion savings opportunity last year.
We've got to be tough but fair. And that's why we will withdraw child benefit from households with a higher rate taxpayer. When the debts left by Labour threaten our economy, when our welfare costs are out of control, this measure makes sense.
It wasn't long before Daniel, a sales director at a small printing firm who'd already taken 2 voluntary pay cuts for the good of the company, noticed as sole breadwinner on £48,000, he was well over the £42,475 higher rate tax threshold. And in January 2013, their child benefit would be gone. And he asked himself what that would mean.
I was sitting doing some monthly calculations, literally on the back of an envelope. He basically worked it out that what was going out of the bank account each month didn't add up to the same amount as the salary.
Had I known that this is what they were going to do before I voted, I wouldn't have voted Conservative.
That's just the sort of comment that's had backbench Conservatives also doing the number crunching. And despite the plus of being in favour of the theory and the savings, there's still minuses.
Next one.
Just last weekend, I had a couple come and see me who are very cross because they're a single income household and they won't get child benefit anymore, but their income is literally just over the threshold, whereas their next door neighbours, 2 incomes just under the higher tax rate threshold, and they'll still get it. And the feeling that I'm hearing from some of my constituents is that it's just not being very fairly applied.
At that point where you start paying higher rate tax, you're not in the wealthiest bracket. And I have great concerns, and we really do need to see the detail on this, that we don't dissuade people from taking that pay rise, from doing that extra hours work, which suddenly puts them into the higher rate tax band and means that they lose all their child benefit. That really wouldn't be a good result.
Families who actually want to stay at home, their mums want to stay at home looking after their children, and that's what I did when my children were little. Yes, if you want to stay at home, that's fine. If you want to go to work, great. But we are the party of the family, and we need to stay the party of the family. And I think that we will do that by just looking at this perhaps a little bit again.
The government will need to put primary legislation in place to make the savings they want, and they do have options to tackle these points, particularly the single versus household income issue and that cliff edge.
Both of those things could be addressed by integrating child benefit with the existing system of child tax credits, because it's both true that those credits are assessed relative to family income and they involve a taper, a gradual withdrawal of child benefit, rather than a cliff edge.
One of the things I think that the government could consider in terms of the people on the cliff edge is maybe delaying the date on which they remove it. Give them a chance to sort their finances out for another year, perhaps get another pay rise to make up for the fact that these people who are heading through this barrier, it's going to be a bit of a shock. Give them a bit of warning and maybe things might be a bit better.
The Resolution Foundation, a think tank who've been following the Bennetts and others on low to middle incomes, think 35,000 families may be in the same boat, people for whom watching every penny has its cost.
In fact, we do from time to time. It's the root cause of potential argument. You know, I mean, so if it then it starts to have an effect on the tone of the whole house, you know, because we're arguing about £10 here, £5 there. So,
and I know myself, if I'm worrying about money, then I can't dedicate all my attention to the children because they can pick up that something's bothering me. So it's little things like that, and it just reflects on the whole mood of the house and how I'm feeling. The children pick up on the feeling.
As the Bennetts and others await the government's detailed plans, there is, one supposes, a small financial bright spot that some things still cost nothing.
Tickles are still free? Yeah, they are.
That's a story worth watching in the coming weeks.